So, what do we do to change the game? The most important thing we can do is acknowledge that word for starters, game. Don't take it too seriously. It is a game. The whole of creation is God. It's the creator playing a game. Playing a game that is so damn real that it's really frightening at times. But it is a game. There's a dark game, there's a light game. And when you start to see this, you're then put in a position where you can begin to change that game. And it all starts with this. This portal here, okay? That's where it all begins. Now, as we know, this thing, the heart portal, the heart chakra, to be honest, maybe 15 years ago, if somebody said, oh, it's all about the heart chakra, I'd have thought, I think that kind of thinking is like not appropriate anymore. I think it's not appropriate to do that anymore. If you can't talk about emotion, feeling, heart, you're just drifting, really. That's not appropriate anymore. And everybody who is seriously into this knows that. Now, this thing we associate it with this organ in the body, of course, it isn't really there, but we've begun in kind of astrological sense to associate certain characteristics with it. But actually, if you look at druidic systems of healing and Asian systems of healing, they'll have these spaces and say, well, it's actually there, really. Technically, that's where it is. And if you speak to Mesoamerican shamans, they'll say, well, actually, it's there. And there's this little fella called Carlos Castaneda who wrote these books in the 70s, and he called it, in a semi-fictional manner, the assemblage point. But it is actually, in Toltec shamanism, is a legit thing. And what they're saying is, what's special about that is that is the seat of your perception, and that is the fulcrum of your perceptive array. And the difference between a spiritual open person and a despiritualized closed person is that is stuck in the off position, essentially. And that is the malady that affects society today, and that's done for a long time, is that thing. And so when you say, can it really be that simple? In my view, yes, it is that simple, and it's done through this spell of materialism and this sliver of normality. And to understand how we can reverse that, not only in some people that we may love and care about, but mainly in ourselves, because that's where the real work is. You can't really do this for anyone else anyway. And anyone who knows who I am and listens to my stuff, I'm a big sort of proponent of don't really bother trying to wake anyone else up. Support them when they're ready for it, but concentrate on yourself. Because once you figure out that you're connected to everyone anyway, if you lighten your node up, or you power up your node on the network, it affects everyone around you. And people may not say it, and sometimes certainly you may not feel like it's having any effect, but your consciousness absolutely affects everyone around you. You don't need to open your mouth, It really does have a significant effect without you doing a thing. So in this way, working on yourself is actually quite a selfless thing to do. It's quite a compassionate way of being. So the Hindus in Sanskrit call this anahat. And I love the description of this. Unhurt, unstruck, unbeaten. Yeah? So they say this is a resonance. This is a resonance, like the sound, that it does not need to be hit against the gong, it sounds. But the whole principle of those words, unhurt, unstruck, unbeaten, this is a powerful, powerful tool in our array, in our energy system, in our configuration. We've all got it. And it isn't just about love and compassion and all those things, which are excellent, wonderful things, but it's actually chiefly about esteem, self-respect, self-worth. Are you important? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. And when we say yes, then the spiritual journey begins. Is Neil Kramer important? Is Bob Smith important? Is James Gilland important? No. We're not saying that. Of course not. But the flow of consciousness, that is what's important. This vessel, this clear channel, that is what's important. So we're not talking about the selves, we're not talking about the egos, that's bullshit, we all know that, right? We're talking about the flow of the consciousness. And if we can clear ourselves out and let that move through us, we can enjoy being ourselves and enjoy the flow at the same time. Personally, I think you need a self to orient yourself as an animal in this world. Otherwise, you disregard the journey of the animal. And you may as well go into your hermitage and just disappear from the throng of the rabble, yeah? But if you can celebrate being a physical flesh meat sack, as James so beautifully puts it, and say, yes, I am a meat sack, you know, then you can do both. And so, the characteristics of this are important to consider, and I would put those to the top: esteem and self-respect, very, very important. And they call this the Shatcona, this symbol, which we probably know more readily as a hexagram. And it represents the symbol of union between masculine and feminine energies. Not necessarily gender-based, but the flow of masculine and feminine, which in the Western esoteric mystery school traditions was extremely important in alchemy. You cannot perform alchemy, inner alchemy, without understanding what you're talking about, male and female. It's very, very important. So looking into this, it's instructive to see that that's brought high up the list, really. And it represents this supreme cosmic self, and again, Mother Nature, causal matter. So far from just being love and compassion, there's something pretty deep, amazing going on here, in addition to those wonderful things. And it resonates self, but the self which we all share, the self which pervades the whole universe, the self, the expression of self, the creator expressing himself as all these forms, the one self. And I think this is fascinating. It is the first energy portal, the first spinning wheel in this system of energy that is not bound by karma. Okay? So once you start to use that, it's a sign that you've done a lot of work, not just in the 20 or 50 or 80 years you've been here, but all the other stuff as well. And I'll leave that to your thoughts about whether they're other lives or whether they're parallel dimensions or parallel timelines, whatever you want to think about that. If you're starting to work on this, and you know when you're doing it, you've done a lot of work already, because you can't do that unless you've done that. So this is a sign that you're moving away from karma. And when that happens, guess what? That 4D space begins to open up. So it's very exciting, it's very interesting. It's not limited to just those egoic frequencies from the lower vibrations, which are fine, but not exclusively. It's bad news if that's all you're doing. And the siddhis, these minor side effect powers, you know, many Buddhists and earlier Hindu philosophers where the Buddhism sprang from, essentially, would say, oh, don't worry about these are, you know, you should forget these. Ascended masters are not interested in this stuff, they just pop up and then you ignore them. Yes and no. Loads of people are interested in these things. And when you see them, as James showed us some photographs of things, they are remarkable. We're not concentrating on them, but they are symbols of progress. They are signposts, markers along the journey to say, you know what, you've come a long way. You've come a long way. So these abilities associated with this portal are very interesting. You know, you can check these out and explore and read them yourself. Claiming power, okay? This is the key to this. The whole thing is about claiming power. And I use those words advisedly and sensitively and knowingly. Nobody is going to claim your power for you. Nobody's going to give you it. Nobody's going to prescribe it for you. Nobody's going to drag it out of you. You have to, first of all, claim it. You have to claim it yourself. And you have to stand there alone one day with your 2 feet on the ground and look at it and go, I am claiming.